Our Torah reading for the second day of Rosh Hashanah, at least here at Temple Beth Shalom, is the account of creation given in Genesis chapter 1. And in order to help introduce us to our Torah portion, we invite forward now our congregant, Eyal Drors. Eyal is a Hastings resident who's lived here for 10 years and has been a member of the synagogue for about as long. He's the spouse of Shoshana and father of Raviv and Arden, all of whom are here with us this morning as well. He's an attorney and a mediator by profession and is involved by volunteer work in the local community as a member of the Hastings Conservation Commission.
Hello. Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And thank you, Rabbi Reiser, for the privilege of allowing me to say a few words about today's Torah reading, which, fitting for Rosh Hashanah and its celebration of new beginnings, takes us back to the very beginning, to the first chapter of Bereshit, the book of Genesis. And it's the story of creation. But to call it the story of creation, to use the singular voice, is actually not fully accurate, because as framed in the Torah, there's actually multiple creation stories. First is a story that we'll read today, an account of creation in 6 days. It's a classic. They made me memorize it back in Jewish day school. But to keep it straight today, I'm going to use some flashcards. Don't tell my old rabbis. So day 1, a formless void. God says, "Let there be light," and distinguishes light from darkness. Day 2, God separates the sky from the waters. Day 3, God makes dry land and covers it in plants. Day 4, God distinguishes day from night and invokes the sun, the moon, and the stars. Day 5, God declares that aquatic animals and birds should populate the earth, and they do. And then day 6, God says that beasts should roam the earth, and they appear. And then the coup de grace, the height of our tale, God creates humans, and this point is very explicit in the Torah, creates them male and female together in God's image. And then, having reached the climax of the story, God rests, but we, the readers, don't get that respite. Instead, no sooner is this first story concluded than a second story immediately begins. It's another classic, the tale of Adam and Eve, but peppered between the lines is also a radical retelling of the story of creation. And the wrinkles start in the very first verse, which reads, "This is the story of heaven and earth on the day that God created them." The day that God created them. And at this point, I'll put away these flashcards, which seem to be useless. And things just go further off the rails from there. We're told of a barren land where God's first acts are to raise a mist to soak the earth and to conjure Adam from the dust to till it. And then, because God doesn't want Adam to be alone, he creates all the birds and the land animals. Yes, the birds and the beasts on the same day. It's basically anarchy. And finally, in his last act of creation, in this story, God creates Eve. Adam, then Eve. Not male and female together, as we were told just a few verses back. And then all the rest of the drama, you probably remember Adam and Eve eat from the fruit of the forbidden tree. They open their eyes to the classic nightmare where they're naked in front of all the classes of species, and they're summarily cast out from the Garden of Eden. So what's the story with these stories? Well, clearly, they're focused on very different subject matters. The first is centered around the creation of the individual human soul, and the second, the creation of the human condition. But still, why the conflicting timelines? Well, first of all, I don't know. But since I've made such a Megillah about this already, I'll hazard an observation, which I hope, also ties into what we're all doing here today. And the observation is merely this. These are the opening chapters of the Torah. And so their role here is not just to offer explanations of how human intelligence and human society originated. They also serve as a preface, a kind of mission statement for the whole Torah, and the broader story that it tells, which is itself another creation story. It's the story of how we, the Jewish people, originated and who we are. And so it's only fitting that our core foundational text begins by breaking the fourth wall in the first act, by thrusting us in the middle of competing narratives and compelling us to pose questions, to interpret, to debate, all literally for the sake of heaven. This is who we are. And this posture of being stuck, struggling in the middle, seems to be written into everything that we do. And yes, it's also written into our high holiday prayer services, in which we assume two very different postures today and through Yom Kippur. One, extremely intimate, reflecting on our individual failings over the last year and seeking personal atonement. And the other, extremely public, gathering here and in synagogues around the world to take responsibility for our acts as a community and as a people. We're here, all of us, in the middle, trying to make sense of it all. And if you feel like I do when you read the news lately, it certainly seems like we're stuck in the middle of a whole host of competing worlds when we step outside the walls of TBS as well. Yes, it's daunting, it's bewildering, but based on the message written into our founding text, it's also a mission we were made for. And by resolving to do that thing we do, by rededicating ourselves to engaging and to asking questions of ourselves and of others, not out of animosity, but with charity, with hope for the future, and with prayers for wholeness, through tshuva, tefillah, and tzedakah, we too can let there be light in this new year. Shana Tova U'Metuka.
Shana Tova.